joining us. My name is Laura Mattingly. I'm the Digital Communications Coordinator with Emergence Health Network. And we are joined today by Jonathan Bohannon, also from Emergence Health Network, and the myth, the legend, the MandatoryFunday himself, Lieutenant Austin von Letkemann. Thank you so much, Austin, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you guys having me here.
Thank you so much. So we'll just get right into it. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health, social media, and how it pertains to those in the military community. So Austin, can you just start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to serve, if you will.
Sure, yeah. Well, I really just needed a job, I was 18, 19 years old, however old I was in 2012 when I joined. And, I didn't anticipate it becoming, like a career, but it very quickly did. And so here I am 13 years later. Now I've got 4 kids and we're trucking along.
Wow. Well, thank you, first of all, for your service. We really do appreciate having you around. Jonathan, you yourself are a veteran as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, same as Austin, just turned 18 and had to get a job and or go to school or get a job. At that time, I chose to join the Army, and I know it was 2006 was around the surge. So also, joining to make a difference, things of that nature was definitely part of the decision making.
Awesome. I'm an Army brat myself. My dad was in the Army, and my grandpa was in the National Guard. So we really appreciate the military in this house. Okay, so can both of you kind of talk about kind of just what led you to continue your passion for the military in what you're doing now?
I love the military and veteran community. I think it's full of amazing people that kind of put the needs of others above their own. One of my favorite phrases that I hear used often in the military is resist the urge to self-preserve, meaning, put the team before yourself. And I think a lot of people in our community will do that even to the detriment of themselves. It's a very selfless group of people. And so I wanted to be able to use comedy to kind of, just bring people joy, make people happy, make people laugh in an environment that is very, very serious most of the time, and where comedy isn't always present. I wanted to be able to just, bring a little bit of light to people's lives.
Well, you certainly do that. We're actually both pretty big fans of the MandatoryFunday page.
Oh, thanks.
Jonathan, what about you?
Yeah, I wish when I was in, I got out in 2012, that we had MandatoryFunday as something to, cope with the dark humor and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, when I served as a medic in the Army, so whenever we're deployed or even back in the rear, we would have sick call, or I would be on tower guard with someone that might have been struggling. I know a lot of times I didn't realize mental health was such a big component of what I did. Mainly everything was objective, wounds and
mm-hmm.
all that stuff. And when I got out, I kind of there's so many like medics to nursing programs that that was pretty much the decision was kind of made for me. So I went into a program and then quickly realized that I wasn't like Austin mentioned, that sacrificial disposition that the warriors have. It's always about, this is a great opportunity for me, but who am I really helping, right? So I went ahead and switched my major to mental health, and got licensed and professional counselor. And also when dealing with veterans, who have served our military members, when they find out that, I was a 68 whiskey, I was a medic, and whatever job they're doing in the military, that like rapport is like established immediately, and all of a sudden we can get to work. And I'm glad I made that switch from nursing to therapist, because it's as if I'm still in the military, because I know in 2007 we were losing like, and that AO in Iraq was like 20 a week. And then when I found out that it's like 20 a day, I was just even more so committed to serving my brothers and sisters.
20 a day for what? Like, expand on that just a bit.
Yeah, like in that in Iraq, in that AO, you would on average it'd be like, you know, with IEDs and things of that nature, or just enemy combatants, you know, we were losing around 20 in that area operation. So when I put the numbers together and I gained perspective on the bigger picture, I saw that there's even more of a need for individuals to stay in the fight and really get the word out that, you know, it's a sign of strength to receive help. It's not weakness. And I know it sounds simple, but it's definitely a barrier.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. Austin, actually, kind of building off of that, a lot of your content does focus on like it's okay to have these maybe dark thoughts. It's okay to not want to seek help, but also it's important that you do. Kind of talk about how you kind of stared that down, like, yeah, these are uncomfortable topics, but I'm gonna say it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. I've actually recently gotten the opportunity to speak to a lawyer that we connected because the lawyer is a veteran as well.
Oh.
And they do nothing but civil cases. And so in civil cases, I mean, you can bring anything you can imagine into those. And, you know, when you pit two attorneys against each other, they'll use anything they can to kind of, you know, bolster their client and bring down the other one. But, you know, I was talking about, suicide and stuff like that. How often does that come up in court? And they literally said, oh, like every time. And I'm like, oh, that's like, is that like a deal breaker? And they were like, no, like that's a normal thing that most people go through. And it really showed me, because I was like taken aback. I was clutching my pearls a little bit, because we treat it like it's just this game-ending thing in the military. It's one of the things culturally I think we do exceptionally poorly, and we do a tremendous disservice to ourselves. If we just treated it like it was a normal aspect of human life, like most people will have these dark thoughts at some point, and we've fostered an environment where, like, hey, if you're telling somebody you're going through this, we're not gonna like ruin your life, hinder your career permanently. Like, it would just, I think it would be a lot better for everybody. And then you also wouldn't have people getting out of the military still struggling to talk about this stuff. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and obviously as a lieutenant, like you're a leader. You have people who come to you with, asking for help or asking for support. Like, how do you use your position in leadership to make sure that people feel heard?
I don't have any soldiers of my own anymore. But one of the first things that I do when I have a group of people that I'm leading, and it doesn't matter if it's for a short period of time or a long period of time, I always tell them, like, hey, you don't have to tell me anything, but I'm always here to talk to no matter what. And what you tell me will stay between us unless I literally have to report it. I actually have had people months later come to me and be like, hey, I'm dealing with this thing right now. Several people have come to me and told me they're going through, contentious divorces, stuff like that. I'm hoping that all the advice I've ever given was good and sound and helped them out. But if nothing else, they had a person that was willing to listen.
That can make so much more of a difference than we even realize. Jonathan, we were actually talking earlier about how you work with the Sergeant Major Academy out of Fort Bliss, and just talking about kind of people dealing with that same thing about, like, I would have stayed in the military if I could have found help. Like, tell us, brag about yourself. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, yeah. So when I established a relationship with Fort Bliss, there was an obvious need. Leadership, at the time, the Garrison Sergeant Major reached out, said, hey, we have this issue with individuals seeking help. you know, at the Sergeant Major Academy, and anyone who knows out there who's enlisted or senior enlisted understands that from day one as a non-commissioned officer, you're taking care of soldiers. So going to the Sergeant Major Academy, that gap, you know, in their career is a time of reflection. It can be a time of, you know, introspection, things like that. So essentially any responsible, you know, Sergeant Major candidate is going to seek help. Well, I guess at that time, you know, FY, you know, at that time it was, they had lost something like 26 individuals based on dropping out of the court or mental health drops. And so they asked, hey, is there any way we can get you on in the Sergeant Major Academy to, you know, have your resources visible that way, or just have conversations. And I also thought it was a unique position because these are the future leaders in the military. So if we discuss mental health, you know, we can normalize it, right? And so we did our thing for about a year. We went out there, supported them, gave classes to all 600, you know, Sergeant Major candidates. And at the end of it, what came out was that, you know, they only lost one to a mental health drop. Wow. So, you know, I think there are some advantages for going to community resources. You know, everything's confidential unless, of course, there is, you know, threats of self or others, right? That's the one thing that's always mentioned, you know, before you begin the sessions. And so I just think a lot of these things, they're hard conversations, but they're, you know, if you get the communication flowing, you'll be able to, you know, mitigate some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And Austin, so like social media, obviously you have a very unique platform. You have, what is it now, over 1 million followers? I checked, I did my research, but you know, numbers vary, but you have a very unique position to be able to talk about these things. And so like, what has been more of the like surprising reaction that you've gotten from the community since you started Mandatory Funday?
A surprising reaction. I mean, just generally how positively it's been received from everybody to, you know, brand new service members, even like cadets or people considering joining the military, all the way up to the very, you know, senior ranks of leadership. It's just been overwhelmingly positive from everybody, which I didn't expect. I have basically the least illustrious career you could imagine. Despite my best efforts, I've never like done a combat deployment. I did a rotation to Poland for about 8 months. I don't have any badges, no tabs or anything. Like, I really have a pretty lackluster resume as far as a 13-year Army career goes. And so I didn't think that anybody would take anything that I said very serious. But here I am, you know, being asked to speak in front of like hundreds of people now. And I'm also, I mean, on the enlisted side, I wasn't very senior. I made it to Staff Sergeant, which is an E6 for anybody else in any other branch of service. So like, that's like middle management basically. Now I'm a lieutenant, so I'm right back down to the bottom. So I don't know, I guess just how positively it's been received by everybody and how powerful my voice has become has definitely been surprising. And it's made it so that I take special care in the things that I say, especially in person, because sometimes they can have a bigger effect than I intend.
Definitely. And so could you tell me a little bit more, because you know, I'm the social media gal here at Emergence, and I've lived here in El Paso my whole life. You know, we're a base town. We've got something like 40,000 soldiers on Fort Bliss, and so like all the dudes that I went to high school with that joined the military, their Instagram has become, look at this cool truck, look at this cool tank, look at this cool gun that I get to have. What inspired you to really focus on like, no, I have the cool truck, I have the cool gun, I have the all this. Let's talk about the in here, the person driving that tank.
Yeah, well, like, I don't know, I have a truck. I don't post it because I don't want people to know what I drive.
That is fair.
I try and keep my personal life as private as I can. But yeah, I don't, like, I love guns, don't get me wrong. I am a red-blooded American for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not the tactical, like stereotypical Army guy. I'm kind of goofy. I really don't take myself or 99% of what I do seriously. Like, I don't know. I enjoy making people laugh if I have an opportunity to go out and shoot, I'll post it or whatever. But I really want my platform to be focused on the comedy. And a big part of what I do, I also wanted to kind of humanize the uniform. So like, I feel like a lot of people feel that you need to be like cut from some kind of different cloth to join the military, but you can be just a normal person. You don't even have to be like a trigger puller after you get in. We have x-ray techs, and we have physical therapy assistants. We have pharmacy techs. We've got supply. There's lots of things you can do other than necessarily being behind a rifle. Everybody's going to learn how to shoot. Everybody's going to learn how to be a warfighter. But there are things that the average person can do as well in the military. You don't have to be G.I. Joe.
Right. And if I could add on to that, I myself, when I was in the military, I pretty much went up to specialist promotable, and then, quickly learned that, my next course of action is to get into school, if I want to be able to make a difference, right? Because it really it dawned on me whenever there's a detail that was needed, and the second lieutenant comes up and he's just like, all right, we're gonna do this, and I was just like, I was like, that guy has an education, that guy invested in himself, and now he's here in a position, to basically, impact what my mission is. So when I got out, now I'm at a director level within this organization. A lot of individuals think, oh, did you go to the Sergeant Major Academy? Oh, are you a senior enlisted? And I'm like, dude, I just got out as an E4. I did my time when I got out. So when I heard MandatoryFunday, I was like, how does he know? He's a first lieutenant, but how does he understand like the daily grind of a junior enlisted soldier, right? And then to find out that he was prior enlisted, that really it allowed me to feel heard, almost like, okay, somebody out there gets it, somebody out there understands. You have to kind of live that, when you hear a layout, when you hear something about like a lost item, like those are freak out moments, although within the in the civilian world, it can be replaced, or it's not sensitive to the point to where you're giving the enemy the location of the communications combo thing. So just to kind of hear it, like it was almost like it was some archetype in my head, So I think that being expressed on social media, that being able, it helps decompress all the anxiety and like, am I the only one going through this?
Right.
So, and I think that's the big thing about, like I was even told, after my second enlistment, what are you going to do out there? And, I mean, I understand the numbers thing, but, I held through, and I got to I did a school drop to be able to get out a little bit earlier. And it changed my life in the direction and the impact that I'm making right now. So, but yeah, the content, definitely, there's a void. There's a vacuum, and it's filling the vacuum. And that's why I think discussions like this can really, kind of like change the options maybe that someone's thinking about.
Sure.
Definitely. And so, Jonathan, you are the director of Military and Veteran Services here at Emergence, and you run what is affectionately known as the Veterans One-Stop Center. What would you say that there's like a difference in the way that the veteran and military community approaches mental health? Like, do they say like, oh, this place is different than a normal therapy office, psychiatrist office, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that it's a shared experience. Most of my staff serve themselves, or they're a family member of someone that serves, so they're connected. So there's that sense of, that cultural competent environment. Again, there's a lot of barriers, like misconceptions about, well, if I go seek help, my command's gonna find out. And and I talk to the commanders pretty regularly, and that that's not the truth, because again, all the commanders express to me is they want their guys to get help. In the event if there's a wait list on post, or in the event that there's a shortage of personnel to help out. So we're more like used as a commander's tool in the sense that, hey, it's free. The services are free for state funded grant, and it's confidential. So all that together, it's like a sick call model in a sense. They come in, because sometimes things can get exacerbated if there's too much of a wait time, right? So if they give us a call, we see them the next day, and we get them into services. And typically we hold them over until they're able to get an appointment on base. And we not only do this for veterans or military or active military, but we also do it for their families too. So again, it's being in a position where I kind of, I know the military system, and I also know the civilian system, and being able to kind of bring something creative, because it's a shared experience in the community setting. It's not so much like institution medicine, maybe like the VA or or maybe like at the Army Medical Hospital. It's not necessarily that it's not useful. It's just we have to kind of prep them to get that help they need.
Definitely. And Austin, like I've shown some of your videos to like my friends or even to like my extended family, and they're like, I don't get it, and they don't really have that kind of connection to the military. They're like, why is that funny? Like, have you noticed that there's just sort of a different approach? Like the humor is different, or like the way that you address a topic, like how
Sure.
have you crafted your humor around the military?
Yeah, pretty early on, like when I identified that, military content was working for me, I realized that I needed to broaden my language. And so instead of saying like Army, I'll say military, or instead of saying, well, yeah, that's probably the biggest one, is broadening my language and how I speak about the military in general, because the experiences are just so universal, even in other countries. I've spoken to a bunch of people from different NATO militaries, and like they all go through the same stuff. Like everybody has a motor pool somewhere, and it is always the most depressing place that people go on a weekly basis. But yeah, so, and then I started learning like, oh, okay, I can do veteran content and I can tie this to civilian jobs like in the corporate world. And that is where I really saw a lot of crossover. And so now like a large portion of my following, like I have a couple 100,000 followers that have no affiliation to the military whatsoever, and they really like the content. But there's definitely like, nothing's really off limits other than, there's a couple topics that people don't generally joke about in the military, but things that normal people would be like, oh my goodness, like we don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even gonna bring up the things that we wouldn't joke about on here. This is not the venue, but you guys could probably imagine. But there's just, I don't know, we have a different sense of humor, and but I think that deep down, pretty much everybody has our sense of humor. We're just willing to be a bit more open about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It kind of is a gentle lead into that, like, let's talk about those difficult conversations, even just having like a different sense of humor. Like you can crack a joke and it opens a whole new door that you didn't expect. So like one of my favorite videos that I remember you did was kind of about how to do a buddy check, like how to check with your with friends that may also be struggling with stuff. Like how important is it to give like those actual practical tips? Like you literally did this is how you check on a friend. Like, have those things been important, helpful?
Yeah, the biggest one that I've seen recently is I was talking about like getting on ADHD medication.
Yes.
And I put it off for a really, really long time, but it kind of dawned on me recently, like if it's gonna limit my career in some way because I'm trying to get help with something that will improve my quality of life, whatever it limits me in, it's kind of their loss. Like I don't care. Like I'm not gonna continue to live my life this way on the off chance that I could maybe do something cool. Like I would rather just have a better quality of life now. And so talking about that in videos, like I've probably received like 500 messages from people since I made that first video, because it went super viral, of people telling me like, yeah, I'm going in, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna talk to my primary care about getting on medication or whatever. So that was really cool. I've found that just talking about topics rather than having a more conventional call to action is like way more effective at getting people to take action. And I don't know if it's because inherently veterans and service members are obstinate and they don't want to do what they're told, but that's just like what I've found works for me. I know if somebody tells me to do something, I'm like, I'm not doing that. You can't tell me what to do. But if somebody's just like, hey, this is a good idea for me, I'll be like, you know what, that is I'm gonna do that. Like, so yeah, that's what works for me.
It's the Costco samples model.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Jonathan, can you talk a little bit about like what steps we offer here? Like,
yeah, so like a lot of like Austin's been mentioning, it's about connection, right? It's about connecting to something, feeling heard and things of that nature, like an outlet, so to speak. So what we do here is, we provide free counseling services, case management services, and we also do peer support groups. And I know myself, when I got out, it wasn't the easiest transition, especially getting out, as a junior enlisted soldier. But I was able to navigate those processes, symptoms through like peer support groups. So, I would be, I would be in a group, and they, I'd be struggling in school, and somebody would say, well, hey, have you gone to the disabilities department, to possibly get, longer test time during tests and things like that, with like a PTSD diagnosis and things like that. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, man, there's no way I'm going over there to get stigmatized, so to speak. I don't want them to judge me. I don't want them to be afraid of me, right? And so, but that group told me, like, no, you made it this far, you're about one semester out, do your thing. So that gave me the courage to go and really not only network on campus with other veterans, but also to complete my education. So again, it just comes back to a connection. So if you're not finding it on posts, if you're not finding it, then it's here in the community. And I even mentioned one time before in some setting, I forgot the general that was there to speak, but I was just like, okay, so are there any plans to help with transitioning service members to kind of like land on their feet? And and he pretty much responded saying like, well, our job as the Army is to build warfighters and win our nation's wars, and and rightfully so, right? He's like, that job is up to the nonprofits and the community. So I'm not from El Paso, I'm from Houston, but I met my wife here when I was stationed here, and I was well received within the community. And so that's what we do here, is we just help solve problems, without getting too complicated, without getting too, we have resources here at the One Stop that we're willing to bring on the Fort Bliss, or we're willing to bring into the to help out in any way we can. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, you guys do a really great job. Like, we have watch parties, like we had the Army Navy game on. Austin, I think we may have actually seen you on one of the cutaways, and you're like, oh my God. But yeah, like they do a great job down there. Even like for single soldiers, like, if they don't really have anywhere else to hang out, they're like, hey, come down here. The vibes are immaculate. Always welcome. Austin, if I remember correctly, you were on a show recently, Office Joe, as well, about transitioning out of the military. Tell us a little bit about that. I thought it was great. I liked the show.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll back it up a little bit. Nick Palmisano is one of my best friends, and he actually wrote and produced the show. He owns Diesel Jack Media, which is in the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina, and it's real close to Bragg. But I met him at a comedy show. I was doing some stand-up comedy and still doing stand-up comedy, and I've also transitioned into like keynote speaking, so that's a lot of fun. But I met him at a comedy show, and we quickly became really good friends. And he wanted to produce this TV show about a transitioning veteran, and he asked me to be part of the project. My co-star in the show was Jared Taylor, who is one of the owners and founders of Black Rifle Coffee. And it was just so much fun. Jared and I got to play Army recruiters. And we showcase like the normal back and forth banter that you'll hear between service members. It's like conversations that serve no purpose and barely make sense, but they like make sense to us. And we're basically just arguing over like nonsensical stuff, like what's more dangerous, a bear or a tiger. And so, yeah, it was a ton of fun. And they did a really, really good job in Office Joe of adding the military humor, but making it digestible in a way that anybody could understand and kind of relate to. It's on Prime, but it's kind of cool that now I'm in a TV show that's on Prime, so.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I used to work in film, and I remember the first time I got to see my name on the credits, and I was like,
yeah, that's awesome.
The reason why I'm excited, and thanks again, Austin, for joining us,
of course,
is to basically normalize the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're actively, Emergency Health Network is actually actively working with Fort Bliss. It's where we're communicating, we're referring people back and forth, and we're finding solutions within the community to help with some of the issues that may be happening. I remember one conversation I had with the prior Surgeon General. Just, the U.S. Army is great at a lot of things, making weapons, things like that, fighting the wars and communications. But when it comes to the healthcare, mental health, I think, by collaborating with the community, local mental authorities, or things like that, then we can get creative and we can start to learn how to, provide interventions that make a difference. And possibly even have individuals who are, I know you're out in Killeen, and I've heard you speak in the past about how, it's one of the best places, that are you better than you thought, like when you first were going to head down there, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so it's the same thing here. I'm not from El Paso, but I couldn't leave El Paso now, and having 60,000 veterans and 40,000 service members in the area, that's not including their families, that's what I do it for this little demographic of individuals in El Paso, and hopefully someone can take, if this helps one person, then we did our job. So, definitely share the sentiment of just expanding that conversation.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, thank you all so much. Austin, thank you for taking some time to chat with us today. Honestly, we are big fans of Mandatory Funday here, but also the work that you do, it's really changed how we approach both the topics of mental health and social media here at Emergence. You've really made it a far-reaching impact, and we really thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
Great. Well, I'll give you guys back some time in your day. Thank you all for joining us. We've got Jonathan Bohannon, Director of Military Veterans Services, and Austin von Letkemann, Mandatory Funday. Thank you so much for joining us. And I almost did the cardinal sin of social media. Austin, where can people find you?
Any major social media platform, even LinkedIn, I'm on there. It's Mandatory Funday, all one word. I appreciate it. Or themandatoryfunday.com. All my links and stuff are on there too.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.